Thanks, Rob, for the question about boredom. Boredom is such a blessing. It's such a gift because our spirit is the greatest feedback mechanism, and oftentimes boredom is a great indicator of a direction we need to move. We need to change directions. We need to go inward. And I've heard the saying before that, there are no boring situations, only boring people, and that it's the responsibility of the person if they get bored and not the situation. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there are some very boring situations that we need to move out on it. There's situations that are not feeding our soul, not nourishing us. It's kind of like eating cotton candy, or not even that, eating bland food. And boredom says, hey, it's time to eat more nutritious, healthy, raw food. So using that as an indicator, boredom is a good compass on the direction in which we should lead our lives. And when I find myself getting bored with situations, I try to go inward and say, hey, what is it that is making me bored with this situation? And then you go from there. So that's one example. Another example is we are such a plugged-in society. I mean, our minds are constantly bombarded with artificial stimulation, whether it's from television, computers, information, cell phones, and our minds are hyperactive. And they're hyperactive because there's not a lot of time for space and stillness and slowness. And so when we do encounter those situations where we're not artificially our minds are not being occupied or charged, we feel that we get bored. And that is a different thing. When that happens, it's important to, again, go inward and look at what is causing this boredom. And then say, hey, here is a great opportunity, here is a great gift to kind of disengage myself, pull the plug from all the things that want my attention, pull the plug from the external world, pull the plug from the television, pull the plug from, stuffing my face, pull the plug from chatting with people, and going inward. So boredom is oftentimes our mind looking to be jazzed or entertained or excited, and when it's not excited, we feel bored. When that happens, man, there's so many amazing things we could do to reconnect with spirit, because when you're really connected with spirit, you don't feel bored. When you're connected with spirit, you feel a sense of oneness, you feel a sense of peace, of joy, of tranquility, of not needing anything external to feed or satisfy or make you happy. And in that boredom, going inward and focusing in on the breath and practicing stillness, or try reverse praying and listening to what is emanating from your soul. And those times that we feel boredom is often a great gift or a great indicator to go within. Another example when we get bored is when we have the sensation of boredom and we amplify that sensation by not surrendering to it. In other words, we want to fight and get bored, and we want to get stimulation, and so the first thing we do again is turn on the TV. So surrender kind of neutralizes that energy, and we just surrender to being bored. Even surrendering to being bored is such a beautiful thing. You can just be okay with being bored. There's nothing that needs to be done except be bored at that moment, and you become one with that energy or with that feeling, instead of fighting the boredness or looking for a way out of the boredness. Boredom gives us the great opportunity to practice the skill of stillness, or the art of stillness. And one of the great releases from feeling bored is to practice being bored. and to put yourself in situations where we're not being overstimulated, where we're not being externally drawn, our spirit and our energy and our mind is not being pulled out of us, and that we're allowed to be bored and use that to go inward. And it's like a martial art or a skill where you go to situations where you could practice stillness. And I think park benches is just a real conducive place to stillness. You're surrounded in nature, you could watch the birds, you can focus on your breath, and you can practice being disengaged of needing external stimulation. And in the beginning you might only be able to do it for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Just sit, and you're not reading a book, you're not trying to be entertained, you're not trying to meditate. You can observe the mind and the thoughts, but you're not fighting them, and you're just practicing stillness, focusing on the breath, breathing, and letting go and releasing, and being okay with being bored. Using this as a technique will spill over and have the ripple effect to other areas of our lives, where we say, oh, here's another situation where I normally get bored. Man, I can now practice going inward. If we're a person that we're finding boredom is a common theme in our lives, that we're continuously, or predominantly feeling bored, that is a real good indicator that we're not on our path, that we're not following our spirit. Whether we're letting fear stifle us or conformity, we all have a gift, we all have a blessing, we all have a passion, and most of us, for whatever reason, are unable to stay on the course that deep in our heart, deep in our spirit we know is our destiny. And when we get bored, it could be a real good indicator that we've chosen the straight, safe, secure, known path versus the road less traveled. Because on the road less traveled, when you're following your spiritual path, man, you don't get bored. It's exciting. It's exhilarating. You never know what's around each corner or what's up ahead, and it's filled with uncertainty. And in that uncertainty, your spirit carries you, and your spirit just doesn't know boredness. It's not, the boredness is the mind, and the mind trying to feed off external situations and not feeling satisfied. The spirit, when you're following your spirit, you're feeling bored, and you say, you know what, I am going to go into this space of boredness and find out what feedback it's giving me. And oftentimes, you could be in a stifling job, a stifling relationship. Maybe you're not in a city or situation that is congruent with your spirit. Maybe it's spending too much time indoors and feeling kind of suffocated and not connecting with people. And maybe it's, you have an art or a gift and you're not expressing that, so you're feeling bored. And our first instinct is to fight and resist boredom. And let's reverse that and say, boredom, thank you. I'm thankful that I'm bored. I'm going to go in and see what is at the source or at the crux of this boredom, and let it be a gift. Let it guide me and direct my life. Thanks for listening.